I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember bacon makes everything better.
Hey, Coach. David Glenn from the North Carolina Sports Network and the David Glenn Show. When you're first hired at Duke, I imagine you have dozens of important decisions to make. But it turns out that your guy from Miami, David Feely, was also Mike Elko's strength and conditioning guy. Give us an idea of how easy or quick a decision that turned out to be, and then how important you believe that is, and he is, as the National Strength Coach of the Year, as a building block for what you're trying to do with the Blue Devils.
David, that was absolutely one of the most important decisions, and to be honest, it was made before I was hired. I remember David calling me to ask me if I would be interested in the job when it opened, and I said, well, that depends. And he says, depends on what? And I said, would you stay? And the fact that he chose to stay, he did not stay because of Manny Diaz. He stayed because of our locker room. He stayed because of our players. And what could entice me to want to be the head football coach at Duke more than that endorsement from Feely over the type of guys that we get to coach every day?
Coach going to go right side, third row, sort of in the middle.
Hey, Coach. Jeremy Grandison, ESPN Charlotte. Your last stop was with Penn State defensive coordinator. I just wanted you to talk about your current defensive unit and maybe what you want their identity to be going into this season.
Well, the identity of this defense has traveled from Penn State through Miami, Mississippi State, throughout my entire career. We want to create a high volume of negative plays. It's important to us to lead the nation and tackle for losses. Those are drive killers. There's a reason behind that. That puts people in third down and long. No one turns the ball over more than they do on third down and long. What everybody knows that turnovers win. How do you create turnovers? So it's always important that we're at the top of turnovers created. I think we led the nation in sacks last year. So it's a scheme that the players love to play in, because who doesn't love sacks, tackle for losses, interceptions for a defensive back? I think we led the nation in PBUs at Penn State last year or 2 years ago in quarterback hits. So it's a playmaking defense. It's predicated on attacking front play, playing some man coverage on the back end. But more than anything, it's 11 guys trusting each other to do their job, playing with great effort, great toughness, and great fundamentals.
Coach, left side, your next two questions right in front of you.
Royal Howell, the Juice Network. Coach, how important was it for you to shed the sour taste after Mike Elko left the program and to pretty much establish your culture and pedigree with the players that stuck through the hustle and grind and be underneath you?
Well, look, it's always difficult when there's uncertainty, right? I think it was maybe a 13-day window where there was not a head coach at Duke, and that's a lifetime, especially in the current cycle of college football. So I give a lot of credit to the players for hanging tough. I give a lot of credit to the staff that was at Duke at the time, still preparing the team for the bowl game. But it's something, I think it's that ideal of what Duke is in general. Our guys want to be at Duke. They love being at Duke. They love the student-athlete experience at Duke. They love what it means to be a student at Duke, what it will mean to graduate from Duke. And I think the power of the place really helped in that transitional time.
Stay on that first row, Coach, just to his right, your left.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Coach, we know your familiar face here in the conference and obviously your time that you spent at Miami. For the Duke Blue Devils, for you, what was it that spoke to you more than anything else about this program? We've seen it have success. We've seen stints of success. What made you believe that this was the right fit for you personally and that there can be sustained success at Duke?
Yeah, I think everything starts with alignment. And so, I mentioned, knowing Feely was here, hearing some of the commentary from some of the coaches on the staff the last couple of years that I had worked with previously. I had some inside baseball on what was going on and contributing to their success the last couple of years. But that wouldn't be enough without the dedicated support, starting from the president, Vincent Price, through our AD, Nina King. Duke wants to be excellent at football. They want to sustain excellence at football. And I do believe, look, everyone's aware of the turbulence in college football right now. And I do believe that Duke is uniquely poised in a way that other schools aren't. Because as I mentioned before, generally speaking, the parents who drop their young men off at our doorstep as freshmen, it's very important to those families that those young men graduate from Duke University. So we still have a chance to develop a roster. Now we got to take care of our guys. We got to be smart and make the student athlete experience worthwhile to stay. But if we do our end of the bargain, our players want to be at Duke, and what that allows us to do is that allows us to build a roster the way that it's been done for a long time, that right now the forces of college football are always trying to tear apart.
Coach, from the podium as a follow-up, what does accomplished greatness mean to you?
Well, accomplished greatness is what we talk about at Duke is to not, it's about mastery, and it's about a pathway to mastery. We talk about, trying to not confuse success with excellence. And I feel like greatness comes in the same way, to not confuse success with greatness. What I mean by success is success can be determined in the short term. We're a small sample size sport. In the ACC, the one thing I can promise you, we're going to play a lot of fourth quarter close games. That's just what the sport is. And sometimes the success in the short term can mask what is excellence in the long term. And so whether it's, whatever term definition you want to use, greatness, excellence, that's what we're dedicated to do at Duke.
Right side, Coach, first row.
Jaylen Wilson, CFB Nation. First off, Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm outstanding. How about yourself?
I'm doing really great. Thanks for asking. So, obviously, with this being your first offseason as the head coach of Duke, I want to ask, what are the most important things that you learned about your team this offseason?
What I learned that you would imagine to be true, but until you're on the inside at Duke, as a coach, you're always trying to impress upon your team the virtues of hard work, of sacrifice, of discipline. You can't have a great team without that. You're going to hear every coach come up on this podium and say, we got to do all three of those things. That's obviously true at Duke. What you realize at Duke is you can't even get into Duke unless you were raised that way. So there have been times in my career, and I take great pride of this as a coach, where I have been the first person in a young man's life to try to teach them discipline. They were never raised with discipline. And that's a big thing that we take very personally as a coach, that we get to instill these values that they were not raised that certain way. You can't get into Duke if you don't understand the value of hard work. You can't get into Duke if you don't, at some point, you had to sacrifice something as a young man when your friends in high school were doing this and you knew you had to finish your homework, you knew you had to study. You can't just luck into the grades. You can't talent your way to get into Duke. And so as a coach, how great is it to be able to inherit a team that has those things, because now you can spend your time coaching football. You have to spend all your time saying, hey, guys, if you really work hard, it'll pay off, and they wonder whether that's true. They know it's true.
Coach, right over his right shoulder, the gentleman in the second row.
Yes.
Gene Gowan, Chatham Journal. Coach, tell us a little bit about the locker room upgrade you just had and what that means to the team.
Well, what it means is, I mentioned that phrase, student-athlete experience, right? And if you want to be first class, if you want to say you're going to have a big-time program, well, you got to be big-time in all things you do. And there's nothing more important than the players' home in our building, which is the locker room. As I mentioned to the players, they get to be the beneficiaries of a lot of teams that have come through Duke that have not had that. The support we had from our donors, the previous football staff that helped push getting it through, it's really important. And now we get to recruit to that. We get to be in there every day. It's a great blessing for our guys, but we should be a little bit humbled at all the players that did not have that exact same thing before, and take care of it with a reverence of how lucky we feel to have something as special as that.
Coach, from the podium, your defenses have been a force behind the line of scrimmage, ranking in the top 10 nationally in tackles for loss each year. Is the TFL the unsung hero of defensive stats?
It is in our building, and again, we don't just do it for vanity. There's a lot of analytics. If you couldn't create a negative play on a drive, the points per drive goes way down. It's hard to overcome. By common sense, a negative play creates a long yardage situation. If you can create a negative play on first down, you're behind the chains on second down. And the game is all about either avoiding third downs or what the down distance is on third down. Football is not complicated. People are complicated. Ball is not complicated. So the more we can leverage people into third down and long situations, then the more the arrow turns. To me, it's like blackjack. You're trying to turn the odds more into your favor when you're sitting at the table. And that's why I think the TFL is kind of something that enables us to do that.
Coach, your last question will come in the first row, just to your left.
Coach, when you look back at mentorship for you, as like you said, discipline, teaching these guys discipline, and in a lot of cases being the first person to do that, who taught you that responsibility, that discipline, some of those mentors that you reach back from into your toolbox for that wisdom when you need it?
Well, I think first, you're taught how you're raised. You know, I mean, my parents are the first lesson you're ever going to receive is from them. You know, so the first credit goes to them. In this profession in particular, you know, I'm so fortunate to break in at Florida State in the late '90s. You know, and to sit there when football staffs were so small back then. I was like one of 15 in the staff room, and you got Bobby Bowden at the end of the table. You got Mickey Andrews and Chuck Amato to your right. You have Mark Richt as the offense coordinator to your left. I mean, holy cow! I mean, what a room of people to learn from. And so to be with Coach Bowden for 3 years, to go to NC State with Coach Amato for 6 years. So really, the first 9 years of my career was raised in the Florida State way. Then to go to Middle Tennessee with Rick Stockstill, who really, again, is a Coach Bowden disciple. So over the first decade of my career, 3 jobs, really all taught from the Bobby Bowden way. The guy won more games than I think anybody ever. So it was like getting a PhD in what it takes to be great at football.
Michael Berard, Managing Director Investments with the Founders Group at Stifel, works with a select group of high net worth individuals and institutions to develop and implement investment plans tailored to their specific objectives and risk tolerances. If you are interested in highly personalized, well-researched guidance and outstanding personal service, you can contact Michael at 984-364-2002. That's 984-364-2002. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Our 3 student athletes will be Grayson, Loftis, and Maalik Murphy, along with Jaylen Stinson, and we will divide our last 15 minutes up among these 3 student athletes. Again, if you would, please reintroduce yourselves to the Duke student athletes if you've already asked a question. And 5 starts last year, and you were forced to grow up kind of fast to become the go-to guy. What have you learned about you since last season?
Yeah, I think the main thing I've learned through that process was I didn't know how to be a college quarterback when I started playing. I think what I mean by saying that is I didn't have a lot of knowledge in how to do it. Being in a room with guys like Henry and Riley who had starts, who had snaps in big-time games, I learned the value of asking questions, being able to talk to veterans and guys who have done it before and really figure out how to do my process. And then going into this year, building that foundation to be able to grow off of my processes and the questions I can ask to better myself as a player.
To your left, first row.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Grayson, not only are you competing on the field with Murphy, but you're competing here today, the opportunity to speak to the media and go into the season. Did anything go into any type of fun between what you're wearing, what he's wearing, some of the interviews, some of the things that you guys are doing? Have you tried to have a playful banter back and forth as you both work to be signal callers for Duke?
I mean, I think it all just comes natural. I think from the first moment when we introduced ourselves in our meeting room, it was just all about us having a good chemistry, and we hit it off right there. Just being the ability to just be able to joke around and crack jokes with a guy and really push yourself to be the best player and push another guy to be the best player in kind of an informal way. Being able to have fun while you do it. You don't even realize you're getting better. You're just out having fun with a buddy at practice.
Grayson, from the podium, you'll turn 20 on the day that you hosted defending champs. When you think about sport and great opportunities, kind of a cool moment that you're experiencing turning 20 on the football field.
Yeah, it's something that's happened over the time of me playing football, having an October birthday. You always the potential you'll get a game on your birthday. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun playing on my birthday.
Questions for Grayson from the room? Grayson, standing at the podium, you can spread the field really well. Would you rather throw short, medium, or long?
I'd say medium. Because one, it gives me a chance to have some yards through the ball to air or passer to air, but it gives the receivers a chance to have some yards after the catch as well.
Other questions for Grayson? Grayson, we're going to go right side, about the third row, right in the middle.
Hey, Grayson, Jeremy Grandison, ESPN Charlotte. You mentioned the value of asking questions. How was it like to kind of have to grow up real fast going into your second year and, you know, having a big responsibility?
You know, I think it was a whirlwind. Through those last 5 weeks of the season, you know, you feel like you learn a lot. You get a lot of snaps, you get a lot of invaluable experience, and then you get the chance to come back. You get a new staff, you get guys who have different perspective on football, who have all learned different ways, come up through different avenues. You add a guy like Maalik to the quarterback room, who's had a lot of success, just through a different avenue, and you get to ask him questions. So, you know, I think it's just the value of picking up little tidbits of information and knowledge from everyone, and really using your resources available to you to learn as much about, you know, the position you play in football as possible.
Grayson, your last question, right in front of you, right side, first row.
Hey, Grayson. Deshaun Miner, College Football Nation. You just said it was a whirlwind, but in order to stay 10 toes during a whirlwind, you got to be anchored. How did you stay anchored during that time when all of these things are happening and you're still so young, still trying to figure it out?
I credit a lot to my family. My mom and dad have always been my two biggest fans and always my two biggest critics, and they're willing to shoot me straight no matter what. So you don't have people like that to be able to just be a sounding board and talk through, and you can talk about the crazy moments, the cool moments, the bad moments, just whatever it may be. Having people like that who truly love you to be able to just talk to about those kinds of things was able to help me anchor myself to those moments.
Grayson, thank you. You can trade places with Maalik.
The original Saltworks has become a legendary breakfast, brunch, and lunch place in Wilmington for both locals and out-of-town visitors over the last 50-plus years. Our good friend Bob Hubbard owns the place, but he's also the one cooking your food and often roaming the dining room to greet you with a smile and to make sure your visit is a great one. Bob has been running the show at this unique roadside diner for more than 20 years now, and he and his friendly, hardworking staff aim to treat you like one of their own. Try Bob's homemade omelets, or special recipe grits for breakfast, or his legendary cheeseburgers for lunch. The original Saltworks, your breakfast and lunch choice on Oleander Drive in Wilmington.
Tony Siracusa from Last Word on Sports. This week, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks here that came through the transfer portal. How hard of a decision was it to get to the portal, and at what point through that process did you decide on Duke?
Starting off, it was definitely tough for me just because of the position I was in with my previous team. We're trying to win a national championship, you know what I'm saying? So it was definitely tough separating myself from the team during that time and kind of just doing what was best for me. And I was getting into the portal, trying to find a new home. And luckily I found Duke University and Coach Manny being a head coach here. I couldn't ask for a better place. I've had a great time here the past 7 months. I can't wait to see what we do this season.
We're going to go left side, first row.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Maalik, going off of what I asked Grayson, what's that relationship been like for you to work together and challenge each other? Just what you've taken, like you said, 7 months. What has that relationship been like as far as who you are today on the field?
It's been great. Honestly, I couldn't ask for Grayson to be any better of a person and as a kind of like a partner to work with. Him being here, him having the experience and the knowledge of Duke as a program and knowing the people that's been here, that's come through here, that are here currently, he's able to help me get a better feel for everywhere and everyone that's around me. And that's Henry as well. I ask all of those guys questions. I'm a big kind of like want to know new stuff type of person. So I don't mind asking questions. Anything that comes into my mind, I let them know it. So I'm definitely grateful for them.
Maalik, from the podium, I want to take you back to high school. In your senior year, you guys finished 10-1 on the year. That one single loss came by one single point. What was it about that season, that game, that you turned into an advantage for you to learn as a football player through college?
If I'm correct, that loss was against Bishop Amat on my senior night. probably one of the toughest losses of my life, just because, Amat's like our longtime rivalry. I knew how much my head coach didn't like them. And, it was definitely personal for us. And going into that game, of course, we're hoping for the best. That kind of had a lot to do with playoff standings. So it was tough losing that game, but I definitely learned a lot going into the playoffs, and I feel like so did the team. And we kind of took it to the chin, and we ran with it, ended up winning the championship that year.
Left side, right in front of you.
Royal Howell, the Juice Network. Maalik, can you just talk on, I know you mentioned after the blue and white game you wanted to get more reps with your wide receiving core, specifically Jordan Moore, who was close to 1,000 yards receiving a year ago. Can you just talk on just the firepower and just how underrated your receiving core is this year with the addition of Eli Panko, who missed all of last season?
I want them to stay underrated. I feel like that's in our favor. Them flying under the radar, us as an offense kind of flying under the radar. People are not really aware of what our OC could do just because he hasn't been in this position before. I'm excited, super excited for the guys that we have. I feel like we're going to do great things, big things, and it's going to be explosive.
Maalik, right side, third row.
Hey, Maalik. Coach Diaz talked about having a playmaking defense, trying to put offenses in third and long. How have you been kind of going up against that defense? What's that been like, and how excited are you to keep practicing and getting that iron sharpens iron?
Grayson and I actually joked with him earlier today, like, we hate going against him just because we feel like he's picking on us because he's in every single one of our quarterback meetings. It's like he has a hit out on us on practice days. It's great, though, honestly. Being able to go against great defensive players like Trey Freeman and Chandler Rivers, you learn how to work and you learn how to be more efficient on an offensive standpoint when you have a defensive head coach. I couldn't ask for a better situation, honestly, on practice days, knowing that they're going to get the best out of me because at the end of the day, they're doing what's best for the team.
One of my favorite restaurants in Raleigh for many years now has been The Oak Scratch Kitchen and Bourbon Bar. It's located on Lake Boone Trail, which is a perfect location for a great meal and beverage if you're on your way to nearby Carter Finley Stadium or perhaps PNC Arena for a concert, Wolfpack or Hurricanes game, or other event. The menu is incredibly tasty and creative. The atmosphere is a lot of fun. The bourbon options are as high-end and varied as you'll find anywhere. The staff is super classy and first-rate, and I've just always loved the people, the food, and the overall vibe there. When I took Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon to lunch, yes, meaning the billionaire who owns the hockey team, I took him to The Oak. Seriously, it's that good. Learn more or make a reservation by visiting their website, theoakraleigh.com. That's theoakraleigh.com.
You hit the transfer portal in December, but you came back. You said, hey, this is my home. Why is it your home?
Yeah, I did test the waters with transfer portal, because during that time we had doubt. We really didn't know where this would go, but when Manny got to come to the front and just talk to us and, tell us his plan and what he had planned for this team, it just built confidence in us as a whole, as far as like the locker room. And we knew he wanted to do the right thing with us. We could trust him as a coach, and I knew that he would take this program in the right direction.
Jaylen, we'll go first row, right in front of you to the left. That's where your next two questions will come from.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Jaylen, like you talked about, testing the waters and didn't really know what was going to happen in the coaching change. What was it about Manny Diaz that spoke to you and said, my 5th year at Duke, it's better to spend it home where I am than to go elsewhere? What did Manny Diaz say?
He's a stand-up guy. We all had doubt, and the first day he made it here, he called us up personally, and that meant a lot for me because at that time, being my last year, I'm not sure where I'm gonna be. He cleared a few things up with me, and I knew he had the best interest in me. But not only that, I feel like it wasn't just Manny. It was the locker room as well, and just the culture and everything we built in that locker room. It speaks for itself. I feel like there's not another locker room like ours. It's truly a brotherhood at Duke football. So
we'll stay right there.
Royal Howell, the Juice Network. Can you just talk on, I know you all lost to Wayne Carter and B.J. Johnson, obviously went to Oregon through the transfer portal. How important was it for you all to retain veterans and senior leadership on this new team? I believe you all brought in 24,000 snaps through the transfer portal, which Coach Diaz alluded to a few moments ago. How important was it for you all to get more experience on the roster?
It was very important. I know Coach talked a lot about the experience. You know, it's always great playing with other experienced players who played in big games that you know you can call on and they'll make a play because you know they've done it before. But you know, we had to call on some younger guys. They had to grow up, step up into a leadership role, and I feel like we done well with that. You know, coming from spring ball, summer ball, we found out who can count on, who name we can call, and it's been great.
Back to your left, second row, right in the middle.
Mayor Denchemont with the Players Lounge. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
So I noticed you're 83 tackles shy of becoming the 21st player in program history to have 300 career tackles. How hungry does that make you?
It makes me very hungry, but it should be less than that. Just looking at my film from last year, I left a lot on the table, and that's one thing I talked to Manny about. You know, he was honest, you know, to just, you know, he watched film on me. He knew that I left a lot on the table. I was honest with myself to know I left a lot on the table. And he's going to help me, you know, perfect my game and just do the little things to, you know, make that happen. So.
Jaylen, from the podium, much like your teammate, you're going to turn 23 when you're at home against UConn in a couple of months. Do you think of yourself as being the old man on the team?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I am starting to feel old, but you know, with growing up, you know, and getting older, you have to take that leadership position. You know, when I first got here, you know, I kind of went with the flow, but you know, I'm starting to feel old, and you know, the guys are looking up to me. So that's been a big phase of my college career. You know, just taking that next stage, growing up, being a professional, and leading by example.
How would you describe yourself as a leader?
Just doing the little things, you know, like getting in, watching film, taking care of the young guys, leading the defense. You know, if you see something, you got to call it out, you know, and that's just how we are in our locker room, you know. So,
Jaylen, your last question will come left side, fourth row.
Cam Lemons, 24/7 Sports. Piggybacking off of that, you talked about being now kind of the old man in the room. What's kind of the message that you wish you could have told yourself back when you first started out this journey, and what's kind of the message you're telling, you know, the freshmen or guys that are younger coming into the program right now?
I wish I could have told myself lock in. You know, it'll be over before you know it. I feel like it was yesterday. I was just a freshman, so you know, just locking in, doing the little things. You know, it'll catch up to you. You know, if you don't take advantage of it now, it'll end up catching up with you.